All right, well, let's move over to the AFC. So in the AFC East, I've got the Patriots. Who else? I mean, the Jets are still reliant on Mark Sanchez at quarterback. And as solid as he's looked, I still am very shaky on him. The Bills have looked good, but I think they're still the Bills. I think they're still a couple years away. And the Dolphins quarterback is Chad Henne, and they've got a lame duck head coach in Tony Sparano, so I don't see them doing very much either. So the Patriots will win the AFC East.
I think Buffalo's a blip. I think the Patriots and the Jets are both dominant, and I think the Patriots are going to win it. But if we go all the way down to wild cards for this one, I guess I'd probably throw the Jets in there.
Yeah, I would too. So for the AFC West, I've got the San Diego Chargers. Vincent Jackson, the big wide receiver, is back. He'll play the entire season minus injury for Rivers, so that'll be big. The Chiefs just have looked absolutely horrible. The Broncos didn't improve enough, I don't think, after winning, 4 games. And the Raiders, besides sweeping the division, are 8-8, and they just were an 8-8 team last year, I think. I don't see them winning more than 8 games. So I think that the Chargers will win that division at 9-7 or 10-6.
Yeah, I mean the AFC West is that's the low pressure division to be honest. I was always mad because the Jaguars were in the AFC South, or they are in the AFC South, and the Colts and the Titans, all had these dominant years where the Jaguars would have these decent records, but they had no chance of ever winning the division. The AFC West, somebody's going to win that at I don't know, 8-8 or something.
Well, last year the NFC West, I think the Seahawks won it at 8-8. They might. No, I'm sorry. They went 7-9, I think.
Well, I do. I remember that. There being somebody who had a losing record that won their division, and the Jaguars were like 9-7 or whatever, and still didn't get in.
Yep, they were 7-9 and won it. They even won. The Seahawks, give them credit, they did win their first playoff game against the Saints, though. So, they did kind of stop anybody from complaining after that.
I will go with San Diego. Are you keeping track of this? We're going to score this off the end of the season?
I am, yes. I will keep track of this, and we will pay attention to this throughout the
season.
Right
after we're syndicated and picked up by CBS Sports?
Heck yes.
Okay.
So in the AFC North, I got to pick the Steelers. Again, I think that they're not old enough to completely fall off. And they're veteran enough to win it, even though I think that the Ravens are looking really good, despite laying an egg against the Titans. I don't think the Bengals are going anywhere fast without Carson Palmer. Andy Dalton's looked good, but I just don't see them doing anything. The Browns are getting better, but they're still a ways off. So I got to take the Steelers to win the AFC North.
I'm going to go with the Ravens. I like Baltimore for no really good reason.
All right, so I got
actually, I live in Richmond, and I'm in the media zone or whatever for the Redskins, which I can't stand. So they're probably the closest team that I actually, feel like I could associate with. And I've always liked the Ravens, so there you go.
They have looked good.
They have looked good. Honestly, the 1 week that was the game that was on, and I got to actually watch a couple quarters of that game, and they did. They looked. That was the first week, and they looked fantastic.
Yes. So the AFC South, I've got the Texans, which would be, it's no longer an upset, even if Peyton plays. The Colts are not an elite team, especially on defense. I don't think anyone realized that without Peyton Manning, the Colts would be in this much trouble. Peyton Manning makes them a 9-7, 10-6 team, most likely. Without him, they are maybe 3-13, 4-12 at best.
Yeah, it's hard to track that. I mean, there could be more than one thing going on. The teams ebb and flow. They get better and they get worse. I think maybe with him they certainly would have done better, but they were definitely on the down slope. They had already reached their apex. So I think you got two things going on at once there. But I for once I believe they're not gonna win this. It's just fantastic. I'm very excited about it.
Yes. Well, the thing is that the Texans now look like they're going to come up and win it and take the division. I have them winning it. I think the Jags have QB issues. Luke McCown starting the season is not probably a good thing. You've got a rookie quarterback in Blaine Gabbert, and Maurice Jones-Drew is just a year older. And as a running back, that means more wear and tear. That means you're just a little bit slower, a little.
Oh
bit
no,
more,
he's still priming up. He's still. I think he's still on the upward. Yeah. I love him.
He's playing well, and the Titans got an upgrade, I think, with Matt Hasselbeck over Kerry Collins. And Locker over Young. But their defense is a problem. They can't get a running game going, seemingly, with Chris Johnson. But they did beat the Ravens, so Titans probably a 500 team. But I got the Texans easily winning this AFC South.
Easily?
Yes. At 11-5.
All right, that's the one I'm going to remember. Who was it again? The Texans.
Yes.
Okay. No, and no. It's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, I actually could see them. I could see them competing.
I don't know. As a Jaguar fan, they're always so. They're just sporadic. They have weeks where they're fantastic and weeks where they're not. It's so frustrating to be a fan, but I think this is the year.
All right. Well, let's see. All right. So let's go straight to the Super Bowl. I have the Packers and the Baltimore Ravens making it to the Super Bowl.
You say I have, like you planned this out in advance.
I did, actually.
All right. To spill for time, I wanted to comment on your, on the order with which you went through them. Must have been the list that you had. But you went like east, west, north, south. You doing some sort of like big circle thing, or is it a cross?
I don't know. That's just how I thought of it.
That's how you had them listed. Okay, let's see. I think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots.
Okay. Well, I've got the Packers over the Ravens.
Wow.
Aaron Rodgers is still there. Ryan Grant and Jermichael Finley, the big athletic tight end, they're back from injury, so they should really,
So you think the Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl, but you didn't pick them to win their division?
Well, the Packers didn't win their division last year either. The Chicago Bears did, and yet the Packers won the Super Bowl.
Wow, you're going on a limb, man. I like that.
I am.
You got some ads there. Excellent.
I do. Yeah, I got to. I don't think the Ravens' offense matches up to the Packers' offense.
This is gutsy prediction football, ladies and gentlemen. This is fun part.
I am picking the full-on favorite to win the Super Bowl again, though, in the Packers. But I at least have the Ravens making it to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So
I'm impressed.
All right, so let's go through. Let's see how this our fantasy football segment works out here. We're calling it Stud or Muffin, and I'm going to throw out a player, and we're going to see whether or not they're going to be a fantasy stud this week, being great, or a muffin, which is bad. So we've got ourselves number one is Cam Newton. Cam Newton has thrown for over 400 yards, the rookie quarterback for the Panthers, for 2 straight games. He has not thrown a lot of touchdowns and has thrown a solid number of picks. Do you think that against the who is he playing?
I know.
Oh, he's playing the Jaguars, isn't it? That's right. So do you think that Cam Newton's going to be a stud or a muffin fantasy football-wise? Just, fantasy football points.
Like over the rest of the season or this week?
Oh, just this week.
This week he's going to be an either stud or muffin. He's going to be a crumb cake. He's going to get the welcome to the jungle treatment, and his magic carpet ride is going to end quickly.
I think he's going to have a muffin. The Jaguars' defense is not great, but it's good enough, and I really think that Cam Newton has had 2 really good games in a row, and as a rookie quarterback, you don't normally see 2 games in a row. You just can't
keep that kind of stuff up. I think it's great for him that he's had a couple good weeks. Confidence will probably help him more than anything else, but you just can't do that. And he's going to make some mistakes, and I'm going to be glad of it.
Yeah, you're going to get to 2-1. The Jaguars are.
That's right, and we're gonna lead the division next week.
Wow, that would be something else. So number 2 is Tom Brady. Tom Brady throwing for over 900 yards, I believe it was, in 2 games. Has like 8 I think he actually has like infinity touchdowns, but forget that number. So he's playing the Buffalo Bills. The Bills also 2-0. You think Tom Brady's going to be a stud or a muffin against the Bills? He's
going to be a stud. He's just amazing. I think he pretty much always delivers. As far as, will the touchdowns be passing or running touchdowns? I think they'll mainly be passing touchdowns. I think he'll get a lot of yards. Maybe not these 500-yard amazing things, but I think he's a very safe play. He's definitely a stud.
Yes, I also have him as a stud. You pretty much can't ever, say that he's going to be a muffin.
So if you had the choice between Cam and Tom, which would you pick?
Oh, Tom Brady, without a doubt.
It's clear.
That's easy. But that's not what we're doing here. The thing is that if Brady throws for, say, 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick, that's nowhere near the stats he was putting up the first 2 weeks.
You can't really depend on that stuff. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of players on your fantasy team so that it all averages out. You depend on one player, you're done. He's just because they have up weeks and down weeks no matter what. I mean, he could play fantastic. They could win by 50 points, but every time they could be running touchdowns. You don't really know.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You don't know when the wide receiver is going to get knocked out. You don't know what the game plan is or any of those injuries or anything. So
the other thing that could happen is they could get ahead by a lot and then then be playing ball control the whole time.
Yeah, and then Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and Danny Woodhead will take over. The two-headed running backs the Patriots have. All right, so we've finished up pretty much. We've got ourselves.
No, was there a third player you were going to do for the muffin thing?
I was. We could do that real quickly. We're running a bit short on
time. Oh, I'm sorry. I had done my research, so I was ready to go.
Yes, we do. Ben Tate, the backup. Well, he's no longer a backup. He's starting now for the Houston Texans at running back, filling in for what was like the number 1, number 2 overall fantasy football pick, Arian Foster. And Ben Tate's played quite well. Do you think he's going to be a stud or a muffin this week?
I think he's going to be a stud. I think he can have another good week.
I'm actually just looking. I don't remember who they're playing. Ooh, New Orleans. All right. I got to go with stud. I think that Houston's going to want to pound the ball, try and get New Orleans to jam the box so that they can get Andre Johnson going over the top. I got to go with stud.
So when we do this segment next week, are we gonna brag about how good we did, or we probably don't have time for that? It's just water under the bridge, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe it'll get brought up real quickly. But I do find it interesting. Steve Slayton, running back for the Houston Texans about 3 or 4 years ago, broke out, was a big fantasy guy. No one drafted him, big fantasy guy. Then all of a sudden, the next year he was drafted in the first round, and he got injured, never came back. I think he's off the team. I don't even know what it is. Didn't pay off to anyone who picked him in the first round. Arian Foster comes out of nowhere. He was drafted late, really late in a couple, fantasy drafts last year. Led the league in rushing, all that stuff. All of a sudden this year, he's picked in the first 3 picks of the draft, and yet he's injured and has barely done anything fantasy points-wise. So it's almost like there's a curse on the Houston Texans running backs fantasy football-wise.
I've been in those drafts, and it's really hard to have that first pick because honestly, with all the parity in the league and your Peyton Manning's getting hurt and whatnot, it's so easy for that to happen. There just aren't many very safe picks that justify those first and second round picks.
Yeah, well, that's why I've never liked in the first round taking those what I would almost consider a flyer on a guy that's done it for a year maybe. Like an Arian Foster.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
There have been a couple others where I've just kind of been like, it would be nice, but I'm not going to spend the first couple picks on him. Because he could regress. You never know.
Right.
So,